David J. Busatil, freshly shaved.
Yes. I was doing promotion for a play I was in today.
And your play did not allow Van Dykes.
Yeah, exactly. I had the mustache. This is actually my mustache shirt. It's a shirt of mustaches because I had a twisty one and had to wear some period clothing. It was nice, but now I am very boyish looking. My wife is just like, "Who are you?"
My recommendation to all men is always wear whatever your wife tells you.
Yeah, my wife prefers the facial hair, but she's actually the director in the play, and she's just like, "You're gonna have to shave."
This is a problem for her to solve.
Yep. She's upset with herself.
That's her problem.
Yes, it is. How you doing, Jacob?
I am doing well. I thank you.
Good stuff.
Yeah, yesterday we went to the beach. Not a very Sabbath thing to do, but it was fun.
Can you swim on Shabbos?
Depending on who you ask, maybe, but going to the beach is generally frowned upon for multiple reasons.
Oh, I did not realize.
Going to the beach on a weekday is frowned upon for multiple reasons.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think I get it.
Yeah. Orthodox Jews do not go to public beaches. Yes.
Do I want to get into this? Okay, I slept out on what's called Toronto Island. There's an island just off of Toronto, and there's like next to nothing on it. But it has I decided I was going to sleep on this island, okay? And that I was going to sleep on the beach. And I wanted to go somewhere where I knew I would get the minimal number of people so that I would not be bothered when I slept on the beach. So Toronto Island has a section of the beach, because I live in Canada, which is clothing optional, which is mostly for people that should wear clothing and for gay dudes picking up. It's very well known that there's a particular section of the beach which is very, very big in pickup culture. So I show up there trying to find a place to camp, and I think I gave people the wrong idea. But eventually they went away, and I did sleep out on the beach.
Yeah, I remember when I was in yeshiva in Israel. So basically in a yeshiva, you see basically zero females.
Okay.
And if you see any females, they will be dressed very modestly.
Right.
And my parents came to visit me, and they wanted to go to the resort town of Eilat because that's like it. As far as Israelis are concerned, like that's where you go for
for a real good time.
Basically, yeah. And so, cousin of mine had a condo down there. So we go to his condo, and my parents are like, let's go down to the boardwalk. I'm like, okay. And we're walking down the boardwalk, and basically all the women were topless. And I'm walking, like, I'm dressed like a yeshiva guy, walking with my mom and dad, and there's a sea of topless women. And I had not seen a woman wearing less than, I mean, it's not a burqa, but
Yeah.
It was the most uncomfortable thing in the world.
Yeah. So I went with my parents to Toronto Island, and we were just walking around the island. This is like one of the first times they met my wife, and like when we were still dating, and we're hanging out on this thing. And my mom goes in to swim. We come back on the beach. We're just walking. And I didn't realize that we crossed somewhere. No, we were picnicking at some point. So we're laying on a blanket and we were laying on a fire ant hill. And my mom is getting stung by these fire ants, and she books it for the beach, and it's in the naked section. And she's just like, I've been to Europe. I don't care. Because it was just the only way to get them to stop. Jacob hasn't seen an elbow.
Fun stuff. Jacob hasn't seen an elbow. I hadn't seen an elbow in certainly not a female elbow. Yes. It's funny.
Have you been secluded from all women right now?
When you're in yeshiva, yeah, basically.
Oh no, I meant now.
Oh no.
Okay, they don't mean now. You're done.
No, Elijah is talking about when I was.
Okay, when you're in
yeshiva. Yeah. I remember when I was in yeshiva, I needed a haircut, and I asked my uncle, like I didn't know where to go, and I asked my uncle to take me to a barbershop, and he took me to a barbershop, and this woman was my barber, which already is iffy, but like she starts washing my hair, and I had never had my hair washed by a woman before. It was wow. It was like, oh, like, yeah.
Too much?
Yeah, I mean, you don't really realize how different your, like, how do I put this? Level of arousal is when you're when you have not been around members of the opposite sex at all for a very long time. Yeah.
So were you, I don't know to what extent, okay, you fled from Iran. Where did you end up first?
So we fled to Turkey. We were there for 6 months waiting for
excellent food. That's where you gained your appreciation for Armenian food?
No. When we were in Turkey, my mom only had the money she had with us, and we didn't know what was going to happen. So my mom was deathly afraid of us running out of money. And we were living as frugally as my mom could possibly manage.
Yeah.
To the point where my sister and I were... So there was this park in front of the hotel where we were staying, and there in Istanbul, there's all the young boys, like 10 years, 8 to 12 age, right? They're running around with shoe shine boxes, offering shoe shines to people. And my sister and I used to rent our toys to the shoe shine boys in order to get ice cream money.
Yeah.
So that was one of my memories from Turkey. So we were in Turkey for about 6 months.
Okay.
And then we got accepted into the refugee program, and we were transported to Italy, and we were there for 2 months in Ladispoli, which is very close to Rome. And at that point, my mom no longer had to worry about money because we were in the refugee program. So we spent basically every day just going to museums and tours and stuff like that, waiting. And so we were there for 2 months, and we came to the United States. And
did you guys go straight to California or okay? Yeah.
Had family here in Los Angeles.
I didn't know there were Jews in Los Angeles.
Especially Persian Jews. I live 2 miles south of Tehran Square in Los
Okay.
Angeles. Yes.
I've never actually been to California. If I show up, I'll let you know.
The weather is beautiful.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of funny. We're kind of we kind of have this little group going here, which is nice.
Yeah, you seem to actually know people. I was surprised the first time someone went from being on screen to being in the background. I was like, wait, this isn't someone hours away?
Elijah lives so close that if I were to drive to his house, I would have to park farther than my own apartment. He is literally less than 0.25 miles away from me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Elijah. And Trey is about a mile that away.
Yeah.
And Andrew lives in Orange County, but he's thinking about moving up to Los Angeles. And Dr. Marcus is actually going to be teaching at Chapman University, so he's moving to Orange County as well. I don't think you know Dr. Marcus.
I don't. I don't think I've had any interactions with him.
He participates on Bridges of Meaning, I think, or at least used to when I was on there. His sister was also involved in this little corner. But he PhD in economics from George Mason University. And if you don't know George Mason University's economics department, it is world famous for being the home of where all the conservative economists in the world reside. It is the only conservative economics department in the world.
Yeah.
So we're very glad to have Dr. Marcus coming out, but Chapman is also kind of known as a conservative university, so he's going to be teaching economics there. And who else? David moved out here, not you, a different David.
I pieced that together. Is it the other David B? There's another David B on here.
No, it's a David W. Yeah, David. He's been on chatting. In fact, we were talking yesterday. He might start doing some just chatting streams.
Okay.
Yeah, David. Who else was here? Jack, Dr. Jack. Dr. Jack has been on here a few times. He has a PhD in physics and works on the International Space Station. Not physically on it. He works on things which get sent up there.
Right.
Yeah. So
are you going to pressure Jason's going to Colorado like soon? Driving Rebecca. Are you pressuring him to keep driving?
I'm pressuring him to get married. Like I'm like, why aren't you asking this woman to marry you?
Yeah. I gave him a little. When we were doing our Gilgamesh one, I was like, "Aren't you helping her leave you? Because he's helping her move to Colorado. That's why he's going out there."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, "What are you doing?"
She's moving out to an OCA church, which is like, okay. That's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else in Los Angeles?
Wait, she's moving out to an Orthodox church?
Yeah.
Are there not? Why that one? Why Colorado?
That's a good question. I have no idea. I forgot the two Maxes, the two Jewish Maxes. They're here out in Los Angeles. I think that's the entire Los Angeles crew. Hold on, let me check the chat. Oh, I forgot Richard. There's Richard. He goes to Biola.
John A, I know, has met you. Ortega.
Oh yeah, John A lives not so far. We met up with Mark Parker.
Oh, cool.
He's kind of far, but yeah.
John's a good dude. He reached out to me at some point, and we've had just used StreamYard as a cheap way to make a phone call, and have talked like 3 or 4 times. He's a good dude.
Yeah, so like, yeah, that's everybody on the group chat. Anybody else thinking of?
Oh, that's all right. So what else did you do the weekend? You swam. Even though it was absolute shanda, you still did it.
Yeah, so actually, Jack and I have been going to the gym together on Fridays. David said he might join.
See, this
anybody
is the
else
thing.
in Los Angeles who wants to come?
Cassandra is in California, but where, I don't know.
Well, a lot of people are in Northern California, which is very, very far. Every time I go to Canada, like every time anybody mentions Canada, my mom always mentions Niagara Falls and my cousin in Vancouver. And it's like, Mom, Niagara Falls is nowhere near Vancouver. But she's like,
Niagara Falls is not far from me. So
but it's nowhere near Vancouver.
Yes. But if you end up over that way for some reason, then you can sleep on my pull-out couch.
Well, I'm actually going out to Minneapolis
and meet my overweight cat. Yeah.
I'm actually going out to Minneapolis. You guys, you're not too far from Minneapolis, are you?
Would that be 8 hours? I'm not sure. Cassandra, who is watching right now, I am trying to figure out Discord. I am an old man, and with Discord is one of the examples of when I'm an old man.
Why do I keep on forgetting to put my airplane? Okay, so I am flying out to Minneapolis Wednesday, the 6th of November. The wedding is on the 8th, and I'm flying back on the 10th.
When is my play? Because you might be able to see me in the importance of being earnest then.
How far, where am I driving to from Minneapolis?
It's a 13-hour drive, never mind.
You're joking. Hold on, where do you live?
13 hours, 9 minutes.
Give me rough direction.
Toronto.
Maps. Minneapolis. Directions. Toronto.
I'm just a little bit west of Toronto, so you could type in Brampton. Maybe you'd feel better doing that.
Wow, I would have to drive to Chicago, to Detroit, and then although if I had thought about it maybe before,
we could have figured something out.
So I mean, going to Chicago, there's a bunch of people to meet up with in Chicago.
Yeah.
Driving through Wisconsin, I mean, there's a bunch of people to meet up with in Wisconsin.
I don't think this is going to be the year, my friend. Next year in Jerusalem, okay?
And I've always wanted to see Detroit, but I've never been to Detroit.
Detroit is incredible. I love it. There's like tours.
Grand Rapids.
Oh, it's completely different because Detroit is like Chicago and ancient Greece at the same time. What I mean by that is because you're looking at the anthropological ruins of the exact same time period, where you can look at something. It's like some of its most gorgeous buildings are in like disrepute, and then I used to go see shows at the Fox Theater in Detroit, and it was during a time called Orientalism, where America was obsessed with anything they interpreted as Middle Eastern. It's when like the Shriners are formed, and they made this entire theater look like you're in the inside of a sultan's tent. So there's like huge poles, and you can see the sky and golden elephants. Yeah.
So we went to Hearst Castle, and there's a lot of writing that looks Arabic.
Yeah.
But every time, like, we tried to, like, I was like, Dad, I can't read this Arabic, and my dad's like, yeah, I can't either.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we asked the tour guides, and they're like, yeah, they didn't really care so much. They just made it look Arabic.
Yes.
But it's not actually Arabic. It doesn't say anything.
Right. And like there's images that people have in their head where like sometimes Sherlock Holmes will wear a fez. Like he'll wear a fartouche or whatever it's called. Is that right? Fartouche? Anyway. He'll wear like Aladdin's hat while he's smoking his pipe. That was like, even a cummerbund is an extension of this. So cummerbund was when they were in Turkey, they wore sashes instead of vests.
So
and they said we like those.
Kamar means black back, and band means band, right?
Okay.
And Kamar band, it just means a belt. Like, you refer to all belts as Kamar band. So when I came to the United States and started hearing about cummerbunds, like, okay.
Yeah. It was men didn't want to wear vests in Turkey, so they just wore the like sash essentially, and then people were like, I dig it. Anything that, and they thought that made you look ever so slightly Middle Eastern, which meant you had secret knowledge. That's
I have zero idea what Sandy's trying to say.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what she's getting at either. Jacob, maybe not now. I need to be going to bed soon. But will you walk this old man through Discord sometime?
Sure.
Because I'm just like, what is going on? What is this?
Yeah, I mean, so the simple parts. On Discord, you can direct message people, but you can also join what are called servers, right?
Right.
And each server is separate from other servers. And when you share a server with people, you can talk to them in various ways.
Okay.
Yeah. So Discord started out as a voice chat for video games.
Yeah. That's how I've seen it. Like people talk about it before.
Yeah. So what it used to be is each person would start their own Discord server, which was basically on their own computer, and their friends would connect to their Discord server, and everybody would go into a channel and talk, right? A voice channel. And it's still a very good voice channel. And then they added text channels so people could type while they were talking. And then people started using the text channels as well. And so it's mostly text and chat. Yeah.
Cassandra, I am on Jacob's Discord, so I'm going to post something so that people can find me.
Post it in general.
That's what I'm going to do. Someone.
Yeah, see, it says David J. Busatil is typing. I'm on here now. Cassandra said someone was looking for me.
Yay! Jacob, I found it very funny to listen to you talk about the Gilgamesh one, because I understand that was not your jam, but I was so excited to do it.
It's very popular. People it's lots of people watched it. Lots of people loved it.
Commenting on it. And you're like, yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's one of those things. I don't know how I got people to read it, because I was just like, I've just wanted to talk about this forever.
Honestly,
Thank you.
I mean, I remember reading it when I was in undergrad. My first semester in college, I took ancient history with a professor that I actually liked very much, and it was the first thing we read was the Epic of Gilgamesh. So it was probably the first reading assignment I ever had in college.
I mean, it's short enough. It's like the whole thing is like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But you didn't like it.
I mean, so what you mentioned about it was precisely what a lot of people were saying, which was, oh, see, like the Bible is being independently verified by something else, so it must be wrong.
That's not. Wait. That's what you got from me?
No, that's what people were saying.
Yes.
And you were saying how silly that sounds.
Yes.
Right? Like, of the people who have zero concepts of knowledge, like, they're like, yeah, so because the Epic of Gilgamesh exists, then Happy, stop. I have no idea why Happy's being like she is. I need to check to see if she has water. I will be right back.
That's all right. You go do that. I'll interact with the other people. Hello, Yanni. Yes, I have shaved my face. I had a mustache earlier today, which is why I'm wearing the mustache shirt. It was promo for a play that I'm going to be in. Or maybe this is someone pretending to be me, just taking over my name.
It's David's evil brother, Daniel James.
So I do have an evil brother. He joined for half a second on the Gilgamesh conversation, but yes, I do have an evil brother. As in a brother who did you ever read The Brothers Karamazov?
Yes, one of my favorite books ever.
Okay, so that's my family. And I'm like, between the three of us, my older brother, who's named Michael, my older brother Michael was in England working in a particle accelerator, and is like, so he's very, very big in physics. He came in second. He actually went not too far from you. He goes to California like twice a year to participate in hacking challenges. I think last time he came in third. Yeah, at Caltech. He came in third. And what was another one? Yeah, so he's like that. He runs his own tech companies, getting scouted by Google. And then I went to seminary, and my sister literally was doing like Cirque du Soleil circus performance in Toronto.
As gymnast.
Yes, yeah, it was a very advanced gymnast before an injury. She got a concussion when someone fell on her while doing the silks. Yeah, Jan God, it's a good entrance. He just needs you need a smoke bomb. If that's possible. Anyway, yeah. So the three brothers, my brother Mike, I would say, is more Ivan, is Ivan in that, who you will remember is a little bit evil.
Honestly, I read that book when I was 14.
Okay.
So it's been a good 30 years. I'm not exactly clear on all the details anymore.
Yeah.
But that happens. I recently reread Crime and Punishment because when
people won't shut up about it.
No. When I was like 12 years old, I read Crime and Punishment.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I can honestly say Crime and Punishment may be the most influential single work in my entire life, even beyond the Bible. Because when I was 12, I read it and I really, really loved it. And I went on a Russian author reading spree, and but I read it when I was 12, right? So I recently decided, hey, I should reread it. And I was surprised at the things that I had forgotten. I was surprised at the things that I remembered. And I better understand a lot of the basic axioms I have of my beliefs, because it really did influence me very, very much as a young man. That's where I got the basics of my philosophy, was from Crime and Punishment, because I think even as a young man, I realized that this idea of, I will pragmatically decide that the right thing to do is to kill this person, doesn't work. No, there is a morality that is outside and beyond of you, right? And yeah, you have conscience. Sometimes I think this happened when I was talking to T-Grob. Maybe when I was talking to him, maybe not on stream, but he was like, but I said something to the effect of well, why don't you decide to kill people, right? And he's like, well, it sounds, or maybe it was rape, and he's like, it sounds like you just need an excuse to rape. I don't rape people because I don't want to rape people. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I realize that I could not kill people and sleep at night. I don't know why that would be without some sort of, and this is part of what really bothers me with the idea of total depravity. I realize there's something deep down within me, which I would call my soul, which makes it impossible for me to sleep well at night. You know the joke I constantly make about how much money I could make if I pretended to become a Christian? Right. And let's face it, I could make a lot of money pretending to be a Christian. I would feel like such shit. I really would. And it's like, well, what's keeping me from doing that? Obviously, it's not my total depravity, right? So yeah, this is part of my thing with Calvinism and total depravity.
Yes.
When people tell me, like, yeah, I am the worst of sinners, I'm like, dude, I wish I was okay doing sinning, doing a lot of.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of sins I pragmatically think to myself, like, if I was more
Right.
comfortable doing it, like pragmatically, my life would be easier.
Now it is interest. Sorry, just because people have been freaking out about my face. This picture is actually not photoshopped at all. That is, I was going to when I grew my hair at just about its longest. Um, I shaved half of it just to do a side by side. Horrible. Cassandra says trigger warning. I wonder though, because there are multiple cultures that did not have such a perspective, and it was difficult to convince, for instance, the the Vikings to become Christian. Like, we don't get to rape and pillage anymore. Like, what do you mean? That seems a little ridiculous, guys.
Yeah, but okay. So this is my thing with whenever I read about in science fiction, like cultures that are supposed to be, for example, in Game of Thrones, the Iron Men are supposed to be like totally willing to kill people left and right, and it's like, maybe outgroup people, maybe if you dehumanize other people, but you can't have a society where like killing your own brother or something is just a normal thing to do and have that society function, because it just wouldn't work.
Yes, but you can have a society where killing a neighboring tribe or making money off of looting is a regular. So the Vikings regularly looted, right? And they would go into towns and they would do all kinds of horrible things, and they grab people and bring them into slavery. Like, when
Correct.
what you're describing, it makes it sound like slavery is impossible.
No, it's
It's
impossible.
possible.
Well, it's no, but it is impossible with people you view as human beings, which is why chattel slavery became what it became, because like people were like, oh well,
Right.
obviously, they they totally saw black people as not human, or well, the reverse also
Yeah.
happened. I mean, the word
Yeah, that's what
Slav.
I took
And
a class on. Do you know who Emil Fackenheim is? Jewish
nope.
philosopher. So he's a Jewish philosopher from Toronto. Um, he writes a lot about the Holocaust, and philosophically analyzing it. So we were actually having to read things regarding that. And one day, someone from the class said, "How could someone do this to another person?" And the professor says, "Okay, explain it." Like, to the class, you've been doing the readings. What do you think the answer is? And I raised my hand and I said, "You get rid of the word person. You can do all kinds of things to someone who's not a person. That's fine. That's okay. You do the gymnastics, you make them not a person, and now it's okay."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your cat is being very loud.
Yes. Humphrey, come over here. Come on, big boy. He loves streaming.
I can understand. Cats seem to like attention. Wow, that cat is huge.
Look at this big boy. Look at how big this boy is.
know how you let your cat become so overweight.
I don't know. He just does it on his own.
With no help from you whatsoever. You have zero.
No.
Yeah.
We tried. We've tried a couple of things. But then we have like a little cat and a big cat. And it's one of those things that we put the food out. And if we don't put out enough food for him to maintain what he likes, then the little cat gets nothing.
Yeah, so Shadow eats Happy's food, which I let her, but I don't let Happy eat Shadow's food because Happy would eat all of it all at once.
Yeah.
Shadow gets fed separately.
Yeah. Well, I only wanted to hop on for 2 minutes. I saw a bunch of plays this weekend. Maybe we could talk about them sometime.
I am morally opposed to plays.
Morally opposed to plays, which is why you never read the Book of Job.
Exactly. The
Theater is awful.
Is the play? What?
First, you have theater, and then you know what you get afterwards? Democracy. And we all see how that's going.
Exactly. Okay,
Jacob, I'm going to get going. This week, can you help me with Discord?
Sure.
I posted on your thing. We'll see. I have not been able to find the Bridges of Meaning, but then again, I'm looking at it while I'm talking with you.
Of that server, I am not a member of that server, but
okay.
It's not hard to become a member of that server.
Okay. Grizz keeps on posting the wrong link. So I've tried his invites to his server, and I'm like, I can't figure it out.
You are a member of his server.
What?
I'm pretty sure you're a member of his server. Let me check. Maybe not. You were on his server. I saw you in his whatchamacallit.
I
No, you're on the Symbolic World server, and you're on my server.
Okay.
I mean, I can send you an invite to his server, I think.
If you could, that would be just lovely.
Broken Clock Tower. I just sent you a invite to the Broken Clock Tower server.
So, can we do terrible things to? How easily can we do terrible things to people that we know are people?
It depends on how strong your soul is within you. I mean, so we have this idea in Judaism that, like, if you accustom yourself to being a worse and worse person, you will become worse and worse and more depraved. And if you accustom yourself to being a better person, you will become better and better and less depraved. And so it's a slow process of sanctification, or the reverse of sanctification. Hello, Yoav.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. We sometimes see you and sometimes not. Your green screen's being weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the ghost of Yoav.
Yeah.
What is that behind you?
That's the same old story with Memorial Day. That's the picture for. That's my picture saying Kaddish in Memorial Day.
Aha.
Being all alone at the site.
I see. Okay.
Except of my mother taking the picture.
Aha. I see.
But I wanted to continue the conversation about beaches. But I mean, if you're in the middle, I will.
No, I'm just about to go to bed. So
Okay.
Yoav, if I pass the torch,
I just woke up.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you've been to a lot and seen all the topless beaches.
I
and
was
have
born-
seen why Jacob's not supposed to be there.
I was born and raised in Tel Aviv. And a certain period of my life, for example, when the kids were not too young, I would go to the beach every weekend.
Okay.
There is a lot of human behavior that I can talk about it going on beaches.
I have to say, I went to the beach in Tel Aviv, and I got stung so many times by the jellyfish. It was like, oh my god, why are there so many jellyfish?
Yep. It's seasonal. Sometimes they don't. Don't you find
Problem
it
in
curious?
Malta too. It's a
Don't
problem
you
in
find
Malta
it curious
too. Yeah.
that humans like to swim so much? I mean, how many land animals will go to the beach and swim for fun?
I mean, actually, yesterday we were at the beach and there were two dogs like playing in the surf. Not all of my dogs, but several of my dogs have loved going swimming. So
Yes.
I know dogs do that. And
yeah,
actually,
but they just want to be humans. It's not something a dog will do in the wild.
no, I think I don't know about that. I think animals do go. I know elephants go and spray
Okay.
that water.
So do you know the theory about human evolution about swimming? There's
That's
an entire
exactly what I wanted to talk about. This is
Okay.
exactly where I was leading.
So it is theorized that human beings evolved specifically from a breed of ape that swam, because all hairless mammals are either good swimmers or have a relative in their past that was a good swimmer.
Elephants, for example.
Elephants as an example, and even the rhinoceros at one point, hippopotami, like when you think of a naked mammal, they are swimmers. And if you look at a chimp or a gorilla, they walk upright when they're in water. So when they're in water, they walk just on 2 feet and go all the way across. So someone believes, and even our ability to control our breath, because a dog can't control their breath at all. It's like it's next to impossible for certain animals to control their breath, and they're like, we can hold our breath. We can hold our breath really well, actually. So this is a theory.
Yeah. For example, look at my nose. It points downwards. So when I swim, the water don't come in because they will have to go upwards against the air.
Right. And if you think of a gorilla, it's like if you just cut off your nose, like it's flat. It has no ability to keep anything out.
The evidence is there, and it's so wide and it's so obvious that should have been the mainstream scientific theory. By all, if the world was just, that will be what they would teach us in school.
It's becoming more popular. It's becoming a lot more popular.
I hate to tell you this, Yoav, but my experience has been scientists are not very enamored with science. They generally, oftentimes, they just assume that whatever somebody tells them, people who genuinely know, and some of my friends are very accomplished scientists, and
some of my best friends are scientists,
and the amount that they actually care about the philosophy of science tends to be very close to zero.
I just love the two of you, because I went into the broadcast thinking I have a lot of work in front of me, explaining the theory, explaining the implication of the theory, and the Tov, they are just doing all the work for me. I just have to sit back and listen.
I like to refer to whatever the aquatic ape was as mer monkeys. I like to think we came from mer monkeys.
Yeah, that's the official name, the aquatic ape theory.
Yeah, aquatic ape theory. But mer monkey, that's got a sound to it. Gives you an image right away.
Yeah, but it's the wrong image.
Well, actually, so P.T. Barnum had on display a mermaid, and then people realized that what it was he took the skeleton of a monkey and sewed it to a fish. and that was on display.
This is how most science is done nowadays.
One of my friends who, again, is a scientist, I was explaining, hey, like part of the legend of there being dragons comes from people finding dinosaur bones and assuming that, oh, okay, so there were these really large animals, right? And she could not believe, because like she had this idea in her mind that everything that's like mythological must come from pure, like complete, it could not have any sort of grounding in reality whatsoever.
The Bible, which David correctly pointed that was finalized in Egypt, is littered with description of two animals, the Leviathan and the Behemoth.
Yeah.
And when you walk in the desert in Egypt, you just find littered on the floor the bones of the Basilosaurus, which is a huge dragon-like whale. They couldn't but realize that it was there, and something killed it.
Mm.
There's no other way but to reach that conclusion, because
this is what a hippo's skull looks like. By the way, a hippo's skull does not look like this guy. Doesn't look like he's eating plants. It's horrifying.
Yeah. Fun fact: the hippo is the closest land animal to the whales.
Yeah. Hippos kill a lot of people.
Yeah, they kill more than lions in Africa.
Yeah, like hippos are. I mean, okay, so when I go on YouTube, I love watching videos of baby monsters. Like baby monsters are my favorite thing to watch on YouTube. So like baby rhinos and baby hippos and baby, any other monster you can think of. I just love watching. There's this baby hippo Fiona. There's hours and hours of video on her on from the Cincinnati Zoo, and a baby rhino, a Johnny, and like he runs around. He's doing zoomies. It's so cute. I love baby monsters.
Yeah, it's a good thing that there's only about 12 people watching this broadcast, because the TLC is going to make candy out of this confession of yours.
Why? Oh, come on. Who doesn't love baby monsters?
Well, somebody like cats and somebody likes the teddy bears, and not everybody are into baby hippos.
But they're so cute. Come on.
They are God's creatures.
Yeah. I love that line in the Psalms where it says, "You made Leviathan for play, for sport, as a joke."
Asita lesachek bo, I think it is. Yeah. Lesachek po, to play with it. Yeah. Okay, ABC is going to murder us. Stop trying to get my a copyright strike on my channel.
I'm sorry. This I think we're adding commentary, Jacob. Essential commentary.
ABC doesn't care and will destroy my channel if they can because it's
Okay.
ABC.
Okay.
So I want to go back to the beginning, to the thread that I wanted to put on the table. There is this theory of the aquatic ape, which you have explained so well, and it is sort of borderline edge of science, which it shouldn't have. And of course, it's not a replacement theory to the current mainstream evolution theory, but it is an important detail and an important addition that should be there. And basically, there are two creation stories in my culture. There is the Genesis story, and there's the science. And it's very easy to point the difficulties and it's easy to point difficulties in the Genesis story. The science also does not hold water, and it's leaking several places. And as Peterson said, everybody is religious. Nobody is an atheist. And this science is sticking to its story religiously, being extremely orthodox and unopen to any kind of innovation. I mean, it will come in the end, but it will take a generation. And there is our friend Richard Dawkins, who is slowly retreating from his earlier positions, but too old to repent and too high status to repent. And his main evolution theory, which is the mainstream evolution theory, was just cut to shreds. I mean, it just proven by experiment to be wrong several times over, which does not mean that I am disputing evolution. I'm an orthodox, back to the root Darwinist. I mean, I would swear by Darwin's book. I hold Darwin as a prophet whose every word is true. But as it happens, he had disciples. Jacob, you can understand my point. He had a disciple just in a generation after him who completely subverted his Bible and made something else of it. And it is just coming to surface to what extent they distorted the truth.
Have you listened to David Berlinski speaking?
No.
David Berlinski, so he's been on, so the Hoover Institution has a podcast called Uncommon Knowledge, and they've had David Berlinski and other critics of mainstream evolution on a couple of times. Berlinski, he just does such a good job of threading that needle between okay, like I don't have to, I can be scientific about evolution. I don't have to espouse it as a dogma, and that doesn't mean that I'm dismissing all empirical and scientific knowledge. I just don't have to think of I just don't have to agree with all the evolutionary dogma. I have found I'm not very interested in the topic personally at all. I don't care. I honestly don't care. I've found him to be the most interesting critic of, and he's not religious at all, but from a scientific point of view, so I highly recommend looking up David Berlinski and hearing what he has to say about.
I would also say, Yoav, if you look at the time frame, if you look at some of Darwin's own quotes, I don't think it was taken in the wrong direction. I just pulled up a quote now. It's pretty easy to find, where Darwin absolutely supported eugenics and believed that allowing unfit humans to breed was as foolish as allowing unfit cattle to breed. Eugenics is something that we have never fully come to terms with. We said it was evil, but then never dealt with it on an actual logical level. So it's coming back right now, where there's going to be more and more designer babies and conversations about eugenics. I mean, that's all what that stuff is.
We haven't dealt with it.
Yeah. First of all, I'm uncomfortable with this. I would separate Darwin, the man. We can have a discussion about that some other time when I'm more prepared. Right. And Darwin's book.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you find the bad kind of eugenic in Darwin's books. It's not in the theory. There is a whole book, the whole second book about sexual selection, which is actually all about eugenics, but that's let's say the good kind of eugenic. When the boy meets a girl and the boy and the girls decide to marry, it is a form of eugenic.
Right.
Eugenic. But this is the kind of eugenics that you want to happen. It comes from an individual decision about a person, about their own life and their own destiny. This is what his book is about. Whatever the person thought, I would just not going to discuss now. I would assume that if you really search in his cupboard, you will find several skeletons. I mean, it's part of his profession.
Mm-hmm.
The discussion about eugenics, I think we don't have, but I think mostly we don't have it because there's a lot of people who assume the answer is something they don't want to discuss in public. It's the same thing as the problem of race, right?
Right.
We don't actually discuss the scientific, and somebody talked to Dawkins about this, and Dawkins was like, yeah, well, we just don't talk about that. And I think the people who are least willing to talk about it assume that the answers you come to are the uncomfortable ones that they don't like, and so we shouldn't talk about it. But I don't think that even that idea holds up. But I also don't think that they're right that you come to the decisions that you think that they think you would. Because, I mean, when you think about like gene pools, right? Making smaller gene pools, taking genes out of the entire pool is not a good idea at all. You don't want to be removing most genes from the gene pool. Maybe a few particular.
Okay, I'm just going to go for a very particular one to be very direct, because when I was younger, I used to know people with Down syndrome.
Right.
They don't exist anymore.
Well, in the United States, they still do.
Well, occasionally they do. And you know what? When I see someone who has Down syndrome, do you know what I think to myself? Their parents must be religious.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah.
That's what you ought to think. And so places like Iceland and like there's been articles that have been published because there have been years where 0 people with Down syndrome were born, and I remember there being more people with Down syndrome. It used to be pretty common, right?
Oh yeah, no, people definitely selectively abort children.
Yeah. So they are going out of existence. Do you think this is good?
No, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I hear you.
And that's a form of eugenics that everyone's okay with, basically.
No, I don't think everyone's okay with that at all. Certainly the Orthodox Jewish community is not okay with that.
Like, I grew up with people that said, I'm against abortion except in cases of rape or if it's a child with disabilities.
You're right. And that is the undercurrent of a lot of the discussion. Did you see so Planned Parenthood has been offering free vasectomies and abortions at the Democratic National Convention, and they've so people like conservatives have been making fun of this, including me. Like they apparently ran out of spots for free abortions. For not the abortion, well, maybe also for the abortions, but for the vasectomies. And I was like, come on, Republicans, we need to start funding these vasectomies. Jokingly, of course.
Right.
Like, to some extent, like, sometimes you just want to say, okay, if people are going to do this to themselves, maybe you just stand back and like.
Yeah, it's difficult when you feel that someone has made themselves into a straw man, where you're like, I don't know how to straw man this any stronger. Where it's like, you've seen the videos, the compilations where the Babylon Bee are like these things that happened later, where they've gotten in trouble for things and they compare their headline with the headlines that come out later. Yeah. And you just go, right? Because if you said the Democratic Convention hosting free abortions, like if you said free abortions, vasectomies, and Moloch worship, that is a Babylon Bee headline, right?
It is. What can I say?
Okay, good night. I gotta go now. I kept on. Look, Yoav is a very interesting guy, and so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave now. And he's like, I can't do an Israeli accent. If I try, it's gonna become German. It's gonna become French. It's gonna.
You have to put in a lot of uhs.
Yeah. I would go to leave and he's like, I would like to bring up the very interesting topic that I wanted to discuss right beforehand. I was like, oh, I'll wait a minute.
He's a very interesting guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Goodbye. Okay. Good night, sir.
Good night. How do I? No, I'm gonna leave the studio. Someone else might come to replace me.
On the bottom.
Yeah.
On the bottom.
Okay. I'm gone. Goodbye.
Okay, let's see what people have been saying. We'll start with We'll start with eat a hippo. No, don't eat hippos. How long would it take to domesticate a hippo? Probably not worth the effort. It is impossible to domesticate a hippo. Galapagos Islands are volcanic, built by Satan. Interesting. Huxley family was deeply subversive. Okay. Pigeons and dogs look that way because it was lots of hard work. Cassandra, only a few species can be naturally domesticated. Zebras can be. Interesting. People are talking to Young Gods. Most species have no reason to help predators. If you reject it, then you're a eugenicist. I'm not sure what you mean. Social Darwinism is evil? Yeah, mostly. Breeding people is WF plan and China too. Arabs used to say, eat the flesh of the date and throw the bone. Sometimes you're just frustrated about what you wanted to teach. You need to make an evil aspect for people to latch on. That's actually a quote from the Talmud. Eat the date and throw the husk away. Genetic disease screening. Seed of date make a new date palm. Is that bad? Colony collapse disorder has been hell on bees. Always marry outside the village. I wish more of my family had done that. Human beings with Down syndromes are made in the image of God. This is true. Small communities do genetic disorder screening. Is that eugenics? The Jewish community does Tay-Sachs screening, but we only do Tay-Sachs screening for couples, and we'll tell you if both members of the couple are have the Tay-Sachs gene. And so if people people still end up having, it's not completely removing the gene from the gene pool, it's just preventing people who have the gene from marrying each other, which is slightly different from eugenics. Adam date palm hater. I think the question is, do people want their children not to be fit in terms of health, like women naturally avoid having children at an old age? How much can we really control? Too much ability to choose seems bad. I agree. Everyone wants the best for their children. Some people think that means mercy killing some of them. I think those people didn't pay enough attention. Andrew passed his exam to become a personal trainer. He is now a licensed personal trainer in the state of California. So anybody who needs a personal trainer and is in the Los Angeles area, you can hire Andrew. Matthew Parlato. Some parents want blonde and blue-eyed for stupid reasons. Antinatalists hate all children. Reasons of Love by Frankfurt seems relevant. I don't have any idea what that is. I'm guessing it's a essay or something. I am going to post the link again. There's a bunch of people watching. Personal trainer Andrew Tournay.
Oh no.
You froze. You unfroze. So how was the test? Did you get a perfect score?
Oh, I have to-
I am not hearing you very well.
Uh,
You're certified as a personal trainer until 2026. Very bad sound. Silence is friendship test. I have said this to Andrew many, many times. My measure of friendship is how long we can sit silently and not be uncomfortable.
I'm too chatty.
No. We need a time to talk a Father Dr. Stephen DeYoung visit. That would be interesting.
Cough, cough. Um,
I mean, he does claim to follow Beetlejuice rules, so if we say his name 3 times,
super random question.
super random answer. Personal trainer Andrew Tournay.
So there's a bunch of talk about how like Noahides aren't supposed to read oral Torah or something like that. I don't know. So-
Yeah, the exact. Okay, so to explain, the Torah is a Yerusha, is an inheritance to the Jewish people. Therefore, trying to appropriate the Torah would be considered stealing. Now, that obviously does not apply to the parts of the Torah which do apply to Gentiles. So, knowing of God, knowing that God created the world, loving God, fearing God, following the commandments of God as they pertain to Gentiles, obviously would not be stealing the Torah. There are various opinions on what exactly the prohibition is. The general consensus is it does not apply to any part of the Tanakh. So the Bible. Question becomes which parts of possibly the Talmud and the Kabbalah would be forbidden to a Gentile. Any part that inspires love and fear of God, I would say, cannot be included in that, which makes the exclusion almost difficult to in any way put into effect. What some people have interpreted it to mean is that a Gentile should not feel a religious obligation to learn Torah for its own sake, but only learn Torah for the sake of better understanding and knowing God, which, I mean, yeah. So that's way more explanation than you probably wanted.
No, that's good.
Okay.
So kind of related to that, like, are like Levites only supposed to read Leviticus, or like
No. So the Torah is, I mean, it says, Torah Tziva Lanu Moshe Morsha Kehilat Yaakov. Moses taught us the Torah as a morasha, and there's no exact English translation of the word morasha. So a Yerusha is an inheritance. A morasha, you could say, is maybe a testament, as in like something that's given over, right, as an inheritance, right? Will a willed inheritance, right? It is something that has been given over to the congregation of Jacob, right? And so to appropriate something that has been given as an inheritance to someone else would be stealing. What exactly that means is the question. But the entirety of Israel have received that inheritance. And Matthew wants all your details
185 pounds.
of pure muscle.
Nah, I wish.
Pure muscle. Did you open that Instagram account?
No, not yet.
A bunch of
I'll get on it.
pics to like advertise.
Don't you worry. I'm actually getting on it. I'm getting on it right now. I'm gonna get a pump. I'm gonna come home. We take all the shirtless pics that everyone wants.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok account, Instagram account. I don't know where else people put this stuff. Maybe Twitter,
Snapchat.
Oh, okay, I guess. I don't know, wherever people advertise such things. And you probably should have a YouTube and teach people how to exercise. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you thought of a name for your other than Andrew T Fitness?
I don't know.
You can do all the. You can call yourself Andrew Testosterone.
Oh no.
Oh yes, and Rabbi Mullet, who actually knows this stuff, has actually I hope, I mean, I listened to your classes. I hope I explained things appropriately, Rabbi. But yes, he has members only videos on the divine code on what exactly people are allowed to learn or not.
Is the divine code a book you can just pick up and read?
So it's been translated to English. This is my Hebrew copy. I have not seen the English translation. What I can tell you from the Hebrew copy is it is extremely difficult for me to study it because it is written at a level for rabbis who are poskim, who make decisions, halachic decisions, and since this is an area which is very new and controversial, like this is a lot harder to study than, for example, the Mishnah Berurah. Most Jews are not at the level where they can pick up a Mishnah Berurah and study it. So let's see what Rabbi Mullet says. Just bought the English e-version to help me with the course. Want to represent the info in the book as accurately as possible. Part of the problem you're going to have is, I mean, he's trying very, very hard to present the various sides of an issue. I really don't know if I really don't know how they translated it to English. I don't know how useful and advisable it is for a Gentile to try to read this book by themselves. And frankly, and Rabbi Shulman took down the video he gave a class which I thought was absolute fire and incredibly useful, but he took it down. Yeah, the English doesn't have footnotes. See, the thing is, I don't know if Rabbi Wiener recognizes the difficulty that someone who has never lived a halachic life, especially a Christian, can have in trying to read a halachic guide. Like, Gentiles just don't have any concept of Elu Avelu Divrei Elokim Chaim, and the idea that what is right for one person is not halachically right for another person. Like, they have like massive trouble with understanding how a piece of food could be kosher but not kosher enough to for certain people to eat, but kosher enough for other people to eat, and kosher enough for other people to eat in other things. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I have to wonder if according to Rabbi Shulman, Rabbi Wiener et al. Do not understand the Christian mindset at all. And frankly, I think, I hate to say it, I think Rabbi Shulman is not fully aware how different, having always lived an Orthodox Jewish lifestyle himself, I am not sure he's as aware as somebody who has actually lived within the Gentile world like others of us. Rabbi Shulman seems to understand Christians very well because he's been involved in counter-missionary work for decades. Yes, he especially understands those places where Christians are likely to get themselves into deep trouble with Jewish concepts, which is more important than the experience that I have had. But again, I have to say, and this is in no way an impeachment of Rabbi Shulman, I don't know if Rabbi Shulman can fully empathize with the situation of somebody coming from a Gentile world approaching approaching a halachic worldview. Let's see what Rabbi Shulman is a BT. Really? I was not aware of that. That is surprising. And I have to wonder, like, how much his experience as a BT, like, what exactly his experience as a BT has been. Okay, that's not true in all communities, Jacob. In Orthodoxy, we have a standard of fasts, confession, but those will differ from person to person as prescribed by their spiritual father. Right. So one thing I can clearly say is that an Eastern Orthodox lifestyle or a Catholic lifestyle is far, far closer from everything I understand to a Jewish mindset than certainly a Protestant one. Protestants are like, and like, we see it in our little sphere here. Protestants have a really hard time adjusting to Eastern Orthodox and Catholic life, much less an Orthodox Jewish life. Yeah. Rabbi Mullet says the first several classes of his Noahide course is to deprogram Christian paradigms, including the idea that rabbis can disagree, and that's totally okay. Yes, I mean I cannot say this enough. I completely defer to Rabbi Shulman. There is in no way that I would say someone should listen to me over Rabbi Shulman. I will say I have spoken to people who I have thought misunderstand Rabbi Shulman. I have asked Rabbi Shulman directly if my understanding of Rabbi Shulman was correct, and Rabbi Shulman responded that my understanding was correct. So I try to translate Rabbi Shulman to Gentiles, and I think that's the best we can do, because ultimately Gentiles don't know what they don't know, and they don't understand what they don't understand, and therefore it is highly incumbent upon us. And what sometimes upsets me when I talk, so I bought 3 copies of, which are in the mail, of Shabbat Mitzvot B'nai Noach to give to various rabbis here in Los Angeles, because I have had rabbis tell me, well, what does a Gentile need to know? They only have the Sheva Mitzvot. And it's oh my God, Rabbi, please. Any halacha is complex. And they're oh, yeah, I guess. So, Jewish people open to Gentiles. Yeah, I spend a lot of times with Gentiles. Andrew. Why do I spend so much time with Gentiles like Andrew?
Because they're cool, man.
I'm cool. Yeah, last night you guys were playing Halo, and I'm sitting there and I'm I am twice the age of each of you.
Yeah, I get you.
I should go home. It was weird being me in a room with the 3 of you. I should leave the 20-year-olds to play Halo. Halo is lit, apparently.
I wouldn't know. That's my second time.
And you were almost as bad at it as I am.
Yeah. So I asked ChatGPT. Don't tell my clients. I asked ChatGPT.
Yeah.
How does foundational fitness sound?
Foundational fitness?
That's kind of a mouthful, ain't it? Yeah, it's kind of a mouthful.
I don't know about mouthful. I just wonder if it's enticing.
Yeah.
I wanted to show people this meme because I really found this meme hilarious. Wait, so people can say whatever they want? Yeah. Oh, let's give them guns. LMAO. This country is going to be lit. Aroma says, I mean, it's not like we've been great to the Jews. The insular nature of Judaism wasn't helped by persecutions when it comes to other people trying to learn about it for general knowledge sake. It's amazing that Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam lived through their own communities being attacked by the Crusades, yet they were known for being for being open to teaching the monks and priests in their area. And that is something I have heard from various respectable rabbis, but it is not broadly known. Back to name for your thing. I mean, yeah, I don't know what you're gonna do. Foundational?
No, I don't know. I said it and it sounded less good.
Let's see what Grok says. Hey, Grok. My friend Andrew wants to start a personal training business in Los Angeles. What would be some good names for that business? Here are some name ideas for Andrew's personal training business in LA, with a dash of humor and flair. 1, LA Fitness Fiasco, because who doesn't love a good fiasco? Here, I'll put this
God.
on. Jim Dandy, a play on Jim Dandy, but for the gym. Okay? Sweat LA, simple to the point, and you can't miss the pun. Sweat LA. Angelino's Annihilators.
What's the pun?
I don't know. For those who want to be pushed to their limits, the Muscle Beach Bunch, a nod to the iconic Muscle Beach in Venice. Fit for LA, because in LA, looking good is practically a job requirement. Hollywood Hunks and Hotties, a bit cheeky, but it's LA after all. Star Sweat, implying you're training like the stars. The Bodyguard, train with someone who could also double as your security. Gym shorts, short, sweet, and it's what you wear to the gym, right? Lit Laugh LA, adding a bit of humor and community to fitness. Tinseltown Toning, everything in LA has a beach body boot camp, perfect for those summer bodies. The Trainer in the Stars, a twist on The Man in the Moon. Andrew's Absolutely LA. Absolutely LA. Get it? Absolutely LA. Because who doesn't want abs? Remember, the best name should reflect Andrew's personality, the vibe of his training style, and appeal to the LA crowd. Maybe throw in some local landmarks or LA culture for that extra touch of authenticity. So that's what Grok says. Absolutely. I actually like that pun. Absolutely.
I don't even have abs.
You should get abs. Tinseltown Tony, epic, Matthew says. Yep, we all missed the pun. I can't imagine dressing up like a Hasidic Jew for multiple years while having to learn how to blend in, all while thinking they don't have to do it. It's actually like some sort of Adam Sandler plot. Do you know the number of missionaries who have tried sneaking into the Orthodox community? There's been a few who have been caught, and it's absolutely crazy. What's so funny?
I don't know. Imagining that as like an Adam Sandler type of thing, you know.
Mm, could we get some less gimmicky suggestions? Here are some more straightforward yet still catchy name suggestions. Okay, I won't read the what you call it. LA Fitness Solutions, Core Fitness LA, Urban Athlete Training, Peak Performance LA, Fit LA, Andrews Fitness Studio, Strength and Conditioning LA, LA Elite Fitness, The Fitness Collective, Pro Fit LA. Get it? Pro Fit LA. I like it. Pro Fit. Get it? Pro Fit. Get it?
Yeah. Yeah.
LA Personal Fitness, Wellness Warriors LA, Optimal Fitness LA, The Fitness Loft, LA Health Hub. Or you could call it Estuary. Andrew Ovick.
Play on anabolic. I don't know, man.
Healthy Habits. Your dog is unhappy with you.
Oh yeah. She's never happy.
Your dog barks a lot more than mine does.
Oh yeah. She's one of them little dogs. So yeah. Zoomer Fitness.
Yeah, that could work.
Might be a little too gimmicky. I'm trying to appeal to all the middle-aged white ladies.
Well, that's what the pictures on Instagram are for.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Andrew's Thirst Trap. Well, actually, why don't we see what other people have? So let's go to Yelp and see personal trainers. Looks like most people just use their name. Fast, lean, fit. Yeah, it looks like a lot of people just use their name. Intelligence, strength, function, fitness, lean training and nutrition. Ultimate performance personal trainers. Wow, this guy should change his name. I'm not gonna embarrass him, but his parents were not good at naming kids.
Mm-hmm.
Six Pack Gym. Everybody's like most people just use their names.
Svetness.
And everyone has the obligatory shirtless picture on, even the women.
Yep. What?
Yeah, it looks like most people just use their name. What's your specialty, Andrew?
Resistance training, hypertrophy,
Zoomer
stabilization.
sounds like you would try to sell them MFTs of their PRs.
My specialization is falling in love with fitness.
ZZ Fitness. Did you tell your parents you passed your test?
I think my mom knows. Well, she knows that I'm going for it. I don't think I told her that I got it.
Were your parents happy that you went for it? Or were they
She wasn't too angry.
She wasn't angry? Glad to hear she wasn't angry that you're our personal trainer.
Uh-huh. Yeah. You know?
Nope.
I don't know.
I do not know.
A lot of people, when they start getting into, when they think about strength training, they just they either think that it's completely worthless or that I don't want to look too big, right? Like, I don't know. Kind of grinds my gears.
Hold on. Who thinks I don't want to look too big?
All the ladies, man. Legit.
Oh, I guess, yeah, women do fear looking.
Yeah. I think even with like a little bit of just strength training, it helps fill out your frame without looking like a bunch of ice cream.
Yeah, no, it's pretty hard for a woman without taking testosterone to look like weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess, yeah, this is part of our society just lying to women.
Mm-hmm.
Our society lies to women a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It's all Matthew's fault.
Yeah.
It's literally women lying to each other. I think. Well, is it the women? I've never heard someone tell their wife not to squat because their glutes will be optimized. I think there are plenty of men who are afraid to say anything to their wives. I think there are plenty of men who are very, very afraid of saying the wrong thing to their wives.
Oh, yeah. I gotta start doing hip thrusts too.
If you say so.
I only started getting into like legs and lower body like 5 months ago, so I'm still kind of fresh to everything. What can I do?
You will be the greatest personal trainer in the history of white Asian dropouts from UCLA.
Let's go. It'll be great.
Will it?
Yeah. I think a lot of the high-end personal trainers who like really know their stuff they get to a place where like they think the mindset of like a 5-year gym veteran is where it's at for like everyone. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a big proponent of just like falling in love with working out.
You are a proponent or they are a proponent?
I'm a proponent. They're just like, I'm gonna take you through Hell Week. You're gonna look so good.
So your style is going to be more like, hey, just enjoy working out, learn to work out in ways that be fun. Okay, that works. I think. I'm going to be a personal trainer. Certainly not a licensed personal trainer like some people. Now you're gonna have to have business cards printed, a
Oh,
website made. You're gonna have to get a secretary. You're going to teach your clients about the arcane knowledge of 1 gallon of chocolate milk and 5 to 7 chicken breasts a day. Chocolate milk doesn't sound very healthy. Right back.
Oh. Dun, dun, dun. Well, chocolate milk is good. Dairy products in general have good protein and also all the amino acids you need to turn that protein into muscle. So, yeah.
I was boiling eggs, and they've been boiling for 2 hours now.
Well, what do they look like?
They're still, I mean, you can boil eggs forever just as long as there's enough water. It was running out of water. You can't overboil hard-boiled eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Protein.
Let's go. You actually need carbs to build muscle. People don't realize this. Yeah, Like 90% of the muscle is water. And the key part of carbohydrate is hydrate. Yeah. That's part of why I recommend like strength training for people who want to improve their physique or lose fat or whatever. Just turn your carbohydrates into muscle instead of fat. Yeah.
I like eating carbs, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's good. Huh? I work for Big Carb. Yeah. The food pyramid was right all along.
I heard protein needs to come in small, regular doses because of a cap on digestion.
I don't know.
You could become a nutritionist as well. How long does it take to become a nutritionist?
I don't know. They've got a course on the NASA, and it shouldn't be
6-month online program for nutrition and health certificate from Cornell University. Ooh, I could be a graduate of Cornell. Harvard Medical School has an online 8-week nutrition course. But I think you have to be a doctor.
Yep. I mean, there's a variety of titles for nutrition stuff. There's like a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and whatever. Certified nutritionists and all that jazz. So. Yeah.
Fully accredited professional nutrition course for only $20. How to become a nutritionist in California.
Nope.
What? Matthew Parlato. You came on with your shirt off just to just to be like the thirst trap, make all the women. You're such a tease.
No thirst trap. No thirst trap.
No
I just drove 7 hours from Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm in bed.
From Santa Fe, New Mexico to where?
To home, to Midland. I literally just walked in the door, and the first thing I did was drop my bags and come talk to you guys. Y'all
You
piqued my
drove
interest.
without your shirt on?
Do you want me to put a shirt on? I'll put a shirt.
It's okay. You don't have to put a shirt on. I'm not going to make you put a shirt on. I'm just wondering how you ended up without a shirt on. Hold on, Midland. What state do you live in?
Texas. I was trying to see what Andrew is really about. Let's go.
Midland, Texas. How far away is Midland, Texas? Midland, Texas.
Left.
How far?
Actually, laying down in bed just like this is the first time me and you interacted, Jacob. Have a good
Midland
day.
is 16 hours away.
Yeah, from you.
Yep.
I was in Santa Fe.
You were in Santa Fe and you didn't come by?
No, Santa Fe, New
you were
Mexico.
halfway here.
I'm coming to see you in 3 weeks, Joker. I'm sleeping on your couch.
You are? Oh, okay.
We're gonna watch the debate if it's still on.
Oh, right. Yes. Yes, the debate.
You had to leave. If you see my ear is super swollen.
What did you do to your ear?
I took 2 steps out of the car when I visited the Loretto Chapel, the infamous Loretto Chapel in Santa Fe, and 3 wasps tagged me. Bing, 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 bing.
What is the Loretto Chapel in?
It's this famous chapel where they built a church and forgot to build stairs to the upstairs choir section, and so the story goes that a mysterious man showed up and built the stairs for them without fasteners and without a handrail and without cost, and anyways, it was a very interesting experience. Santa Fe, New Mexico overall is a very I guess we just lean in real quick. Is a very liberal place. And so it was quite an experience. But yeah, I got out for a minute and a half, and 3 wasps tagged me up. And I'm allergic to bees and ants, so it was. I was very lucky I didn't get hit in any important areas, but my ear is still swollen.
Do you carry an EpiPen with you?
I used to when I was a young lad. I used to, but I do not now. I was hoping to I don't want to throw shade on you. I was hoping to wrestle with Andrew on his new fitness. I've been an athlete my whole life, so I'm very very curious about it. But I would like to touch into what I said earlier a little bit. Is what do you make about the? I feel like there's a little bit of Jordan Peterson over critiquing of Jordan Peterson here recently in our sphere. Or
There's always been people in. So this is part of the problem. This is part of the reason why I call myself Jordan Peterson Sphere and not TLC. Possibly a majority of the people who call themselves TLC, including the entire Grail Country crowd, don't like being known as in any way affiliated with Jordan Peterson because they think they think Jordan Peterson, his draw has nothing to do with his politics, which is absolutely wrong. And B, they think that in his engagement with politics, he's veered away from that which is useful with him, which is, again, 100% absolutely wrong.
Yeah, I agree. It's there's wanting the cake. What is it? Wanting the cake and to eat it too, kind of thing going on.
It's beyond that. It's not understanding. It's precisely the new atheists wanting all the benefits of Christianity without any of the anything that goes along with it. But these same people, they will criticize the new atheists for being cultural Christians. They won't criticize themselves for being cultural Peterson fans.
I love that framing and just put cards on the table. I have a conversation with Neil Daedalus. We're gonna the framing is gonna kind of start there, but obviously I want to follow the logos. But I love the way you just kind of framed it. I think that's absolutely analogous. The cultural Christian thing. It's to sit here and participate in TLC and demand JP to not be who JP is, Jordan Peterson to not be who he is.
Not be how he became famous.
Yes.
They like to pretend that he didn't become famous because he was criticizing a law and fighting the culture war, which is absolutely not true. He became famous because of C16.
Yep. Well, and I mean, it's not that I want to not that I want to save anything. I mean, it is what it is. But I where I'm landed now is, we'll just kind of put cards on the table. That's what I'm known for. Is I've been wrestling with this Machiavellianism versus Platonic politics, and just in a very. I know you don't necessarily appreciate TLC as much as perhaps I do, but in a TLC way, it's obviously a both and, in my opinion. You have to the simplest way I can say is you have to aim for Platonic ideals, but you have to understand and wrestle with the Machiavellian nature of our world. I
have a completely different way of looking at how politics should be properly oriented. A properly oriented politics is subservient and answerable to your theology. Like your theology affects how you view politics, as well it should. So Doug Wilson, who I like to call the smartest dumb man I know,
my best friend used to call me that.
He's in essence correct when he says it's Christ or chaos. Like if your politics is not subservient to your theology, it's an idol. It's cancerous. It's bad. Your theology needs to be that which tells you what your politics is. Yeah.
Or you've jettisoned any traditional theology, and you're worshiping politics whether you know it or not.
Yep. Yeah. So what people misunderstand about that is they think that means your theology and your politics should be somehow unified. That's not.
Now you're in Iran.
Yeah, and like, of anybody in this little corner, I like to think I am the most anti-theocratic person, and I have to deal with being anti-theocratic as a Jew constantly, because I am constantly the one who's like, no, our Judaism cannot be involved in the politics of the state of Israel. Cannot be intimately involved.
Well, and I would just say, as a goober, you know, we can all kind of be particular to a certain degree. I actually kind of pushed back on even the notion of theocracy, besides the distinction you just made. Without the distinction you just made, I'm like, we're all in a very theocratic world. But you're right. It's whether it's in a congruent versus a influence. And Carl Schmitt, I mean, he wrote a book, Political Theology. It's a great book, and it's basically the idea that religio informs the politics, and if you want to take it as a 1-for-1, okay, good luck, Iran. But to sit there and remove it or totally separate it, you're now in a lost, incoherent world.
Correct. I agree with you.
Yeah, I guess just to go ahead and dial in. I mean, unless you got somewhere else to go. I just traveled a few hours, so I'm up. I guess the overall the bigger picture critique I feel like is, I mean, the headline is Jordan Peterson is too political and not Christian enough, you know, and kind of a raw encapsulation of it. And I think, I mean, I don't want to sit here and beat a dead horse, but and like I said, I'm going to get into Neil with this, and I don't want to put words in Neil's mouth, and obviously caveats. I think Neil's a brilliant mind and a great soul. I think there's a wanting your cake and eat it too. I think it's not understanding what and who Jordan Peterson is doing and who he is, and the fact that, you know, there was a comment or a mentioning recently of him. I guess he appeared on Fox News recently, and look, I'm no fan of legacy media. I'm no fan of Fox News. I think you should unplug from all of the kayfabe. But at the same time, I mean, I'll just do the perspectival thing. I have a father who's I'll go deep. He's a 25-year retired Marine Mustang. You know, damn near everything he earned and loves is can be owed to you know, the American dream, the American view, the American system, and yet he's wrestling, and now he's rubbing up against, especially with a son like me, into these kind of more far right framings, and it breaks my heart in a certain degree that he's very much in this, you know, dissonance of, or in this state of wrestling deeply, because, you know, he's not gonna come here on YouTube and imbibe all the stuff for it, but he's also, he recognizes like something is very, very broken, and he's kind of settled on, well, I'll take Fox News at you know, somewhat face value, and so when Jordan Peterson shows up on Fox News, I just want to be honest. It's like it's this thing that I'm wrestling with on Machiavelli versus Plato, and, you know, perhaps I'm too friendly or too open-minded or too Luke Thompson-y, but I see there's a both and. I think there's an aiming for Plato while wrestling with Machiavelli. That's kind of how I've cognized it, and so for JP to show up on Fox News, that doesn't ruffle my feathers by zero degree.
Why would it ruffle your feathers for somebody to be actually talking? Like, the fact it wouldn't ruffle my feathers if he went on MSNBC. Why would it? Why should it? Like MSNBC is completely worthless propaganda. Yet, why would I in any way like dislike somebody actually speaking reasonably on any channel?
Yeah, and we can just highlight this is that, you know, in a very simplistic framing, is that, you know, the left used to be this freedom of speech, free, you know, open discourse thing, and it's like they've totally jettisoned that and totally abandoned it to where, yeah, Fox News is going to have, like we said, like open dialogue, and it's like that's demonized.
I really have to. So this is the thing. It's like these same people who claim that they think of themselves as being apolitical, like they wouldn't have any problem with Jordan Peterson on MSNBC or CNN, right? Yet they do have a problem with him on Fox News. Why?
Which, and I'll even go one step further. That's how he cut his teeth. I mean, the Kathy Newman interview was no right-wing leaning framing of the discussion, and you saw how he handled himself. You saw, and we can go further. Years later, you saw the ramifications of that. You know, he was very back in the defensive. You know, counter punching, for lack of a better analogy, and it blew up to millions and millions of views and is right in line with the lore of his Arise. And so, yeah, he kind of did that, you know, and he'll go even far enough to say he reaches out to his American Democrat connections, and they will not speak to him publicly.
I mean, I'm sorry, but like if you are supporting the Democrats, if you're not voting for Donald Trump, you are one of two things. You are either incredibly ignorant or you are evil. Now, vast majority of people are very ignorant, but deliberate ignorance like that is inexcusable.
The one thing
I'm done with pussyfooting with people who like they're like, oh, either you vote Democrat or you don't vote at all. No, you vote Republican or you're evil.
Well, and to try and be a little bit less brash is I would say, and I'll shout Grim Grizz here, is that they've got the mind control machine by the balls. I mean, you know, it's this Curtis Yarvin notion of la cathédrale, the cathedral of, you know, education and media. Because I mean, I could just kind of pare it down to real simple. When the democracy form of oligarchy, referencing the iron law of oligarchy, is just one parameter. It's public opinion. And so if you have education and you have media, you run public opinion. And it's exactly what we're seeing now. Kamala Harris went from a absolute despised, unimpressive Democratic representative to she's the bride. You know, it's just that quick.
Yeah, she could not win any elections. Yet now they're pretending that she won an election, which she obviously did not and could not have. Like, I'm sorry. There is no excuse for being a Democrat. There is zero excuse for an intelligent human being to be a Democrat.
Well, that's kind of why I wanted to mention the mind control machine. Shout out Grim Grizz, is because I don't necessarily, if someone is as interested in, as this is going to sound arrogant, as intellectual as you know, perhaps you or I kind of agree, but you also have to understand, you know, boots on the ground kind of thing. People are, you know, here's what I'll do. I'll do the perspectival thing. I got a brother who's a millionaire. I'm going to his wedding. It's the reason I'm going to come sleep on your couch. He's getting married in September 7th. God bless him. He's not doing a sacramental wedding. We'll see how it works. I'm praying for him. But you know, to that regard, he uses the heuristics. You know, reality is infinitely complex, and he uses the heuristics. And the CNN people are trusted, you know, educated folks with their credentials. And so, you know, just to kind of to give them a little bit of credit, it's, they're perhaps not looking and investigating as deeply and as thoroughly as they should. And so, it may not be ignorance or evil. It's just that they're
No,
not.
it's ignorance. That's what I mean. You're describing ignorance, and yes, vast majority of people are ignorant about politics.
I'm not going to call my brother ignorant. I mean, he's a very, very smart man. So
being smart is not the opposite of being ignorant. Being smart is not the opposite of being ignorant.
No, and he's beyond smart. He's biomedical engineering.
Okay, but in this particular, like, everybody's ignorant of some things, right? There are things I do not know, but my big thing is if you don't know about politics, then at least don't venture into the political realm. But what bothers me is people who especially people who are like, yeah, I don't know much about politics, and then they start in on talking about politics.
Well, I want to invoke one of I mean, it's a I'm the John Vervaeke nerd. I wave that flag proudly. And it's something that you recognized somewhat far back is the distributed cognition notion, and so there is this idea that he's depending on these systems, these networks to operate functionally. And the way I'll just do the perspective, and I don't want to pick on my brother, and God, he's never going to watch this, blah, 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 but it's, he's made all the right moves. He's done the exact opposite of kind of, my life trajectory, where going into, criminality, becoming a felon, being homeless, blah, 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 to where, looking and investigating these things bared a ton of fruit spiritually and as goes wisdom and as goes well-being. It's where he's still not ready to jettison entirely those networks of distributed cognition. And so there's a way into which I can relate and understand, and perhaps it's that familiarity, that literally familial aspect, that brotherly love, but yeah, he's just not ready to say all of the institutions are dead, burn them down. Where I think me and you are.
That is the number one thing that for me explains the Trump derangement syndrome of people like John McWhorter and Sam Harris.
Yep.
People who have not felt the institutional betrayal of recognizing how they are being betrayed by our institutions. A lot of them seriously trust our institutions.
Yep.
And it's reasonable for them to trust our institutions.
Yes, we have to.
Because our institutions have not failed them. And I, in some ways, hope that they never actually get red-pilled. And what we mean by red-pilled means recognizing that our institutions are so corrupt that we cannot trust them.
That I resonate so much with that, Jacob, because I mean, cards on the table. You go listen to some other conversation. I've gone through a pretty dark path, and when I was a screwball young man trying to figure out how to be a man, and some of the wisdom I landed on was in a very analogous way. I don't need my family and loved ones to see what I saw and experience what I experienced to understand and to gain the wisdom and the insights that I gained, because it's so it's kind of like you say, it's the institutions have not failed them so radically. But with that said, in the same, I can juggle the same notion is that, but when you do investigate, when it does kind of matter to you, when you're, don't have millions of dollars in the bank and you're sitting here wondering about how you're going to raise a child. Yeah, I want Donald Trump to eradicate the Department of Education. I want him now. I want it now. And to the even the, I won't say woke, because my brother's not woke. He's very not. He's very much a Sam Harris liberal, classic liberal, even though the whole mass of the culture has, abandoned that terminology. And for a reason. Ideas matter. They don't call themselves liberal for a reason, brother. They call themselves progressive because they're progressing towards their secular utopia. Pay attention to the words. And so there's this there's this notion that it's like, yeah, you haven't had your feet held to the fire kind of thing yet. And I don't pray. And the struggle in me is I don't want. He's about to get married to this beautiful, amazing dentist Persian woman. It's like I don't want any. I don't pray. And in an analogous way, I'll say this too. I'll go even one step further. And I've talked about this with my parents. They're having a very secular wedding, and with my John Vervaeke with. Go ahead.
Is she Jewish or Muslim or what?
No, she's they're big family in San Francisco, huge family, very connected. One time Muslim, Persian. Now they come here and they're super secular, aka pseudo Protestant, as I see it. And but the point is, I've also wrestled with a very analogous notion of I pray that they can figure out something. I want to be very gentle. I worry that they're leaning into the decadent. I'm the John Vervaeke guy. I worry that they're leaning into the decadent romanticism that their marriage, their unsacramental, unreligious marriage, can handle it all. And when the absolute wrestles and absolute controversies that will arise, where do they go after that? Where do they point after that to align? Because it will happen. And I don't wish that. Obviously, I don't wish this on any. Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, look, like there is a sense in which you feel, yay, people are naive, let them be naive. At the same time, naivete ultimately causes pain.
Yeah, and for the life I've lived and blah blah blah, I've seen a oh gosh, I heard it just this weekend when I was visiting a friend. What did she say? She put it way more beautiful. She had a way more poetic way of saying my way of always saying it was the extent of the darkness I experienced refracts into the light, the light and glory that I'm now trying to attain. And shame on me for I did not remember the exact wording, but she had a much more poetic way of saying the depravity you will go through will be oppositely in an opposition capable in the glory and the righteousness that you may aim for. It's this, how low you go into the bottom will now refract into what you see and recognize as no way. We got to get away. I mean, I'll just do the perspective thing. You got to get away from that. You do not want to see what the thuggish, animalistic, violent. Sorry for the trigger. We're sorry for the animalistic, thuggish, violent overtones of that reality is. I lived it for many, many years. I lived it and explicitly for 10 years incarcerated. I hope I'm not yelling. I got a silly mic here. But yeah, it's very much analogous in that way.
Wow, you served 10 years?
I did no. Excuse me, no. I did 10 months on a 12-month sentence in the county in Florida. If you go over 12 months, you have to go to prison. I did not go to prison. I just did 3 facilities in the county jail.
Yeah, I thought you said 10 years. I was like, Matthew, I'm not sure I want you sleeping on my bed. Like 10 years is heavy time.
God bless you. God bless you. No. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Especially if you've done 10 years at your age, you're probably a psychopath.
No, yeah, or just vehemently lost. That's the best adjective I've really stuck on. Is there's kind of two avenues I go. Is I was very first of all, the first caveat is I own it all. I very much in a Jordan Peterson kind of fashion. Even though I came to this before I found Jordan Peterson, is I am an agent and I made choices. But there's kind of two avenues on you. The culture and the symbolic structures were very very toxic, and so kind of got in where I fit in. As a lost boy chasing lost girls, and I was very good at catching those lost girls. And when I decided I wanted a woman, it's much harder. But then also the notion of oh gosh, did I lose it? Did I lose my train of thought? Lost one and I hope I didn't lose it. Give me, yeah, and the fact that there you make these choices, but also, you know, I was lost, but also there was the culture to kind of entice me into the losing. And we don't have, there it is. We don't have the cross cultural universal manhood initiations. I have this saying of a lot of young men in our world today excuse me for the book, we're banging our head into walls. I'll do this. I was banging my head into walls trying to figure out how to be a man. I mean, just very basically. And I had to hit rock bottom to realize, hey, you better become a man, or you're going to do a lot more time than a week homeless, which I did. So yeah, the notion of being lost and the notion of this initiation, into manhood, we've totally jettisoned it. I think some of that goes into the masterpiece I reference often of Bowling Alone, just because I think a community would kind of, in a subsidiary fashion, kind of deal with those initiations. And we've totally eviscerated all notions of community.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. The nuclear family is a nuclear disaster.
Say it again, Andrew. I haven't heard from you.
I agree.
And you're young.
Yeah. What can you do? Especially with a lot of immigrant families.
Yeah.
They come over here, they think materialism is the shit, and there's not so much, especially with Chinese families. It's like there's really no community, there's hardly any culture, and it yeah.
Well, part of that is the Cultural Revolution.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just want to say, and this is my style, I apologize, but I just want to say, Andrew, you say that, and that's not that's not a trivial thing you just said. Like that's a very important, devastating, integral to the human experience notion you're illustrating there. Like, I don't want to do woe is me. That's not what I'm going at. But for you as a young man who has not made the gnarly mistakes that I have made, and 180 pounds, a lot of muscle, good for you, man. Keep going. Hopefully if you can align that with a spiritual and moral embodiment, you're on the right path, brother. And I can't wait to beat you in the early September. I cannot wait. But this notion of like no culture and trying to fit in and yeah, I just want to say, I don't want to just brush by that. It's kind of what I'm getting about. Like that's very devastating to the human experience, as from what I understand.
Yeah. I think part of a lot of young guys can get confused in terms of manliness by it's like not being able to be a good like agent, not being able to like change your life or make good life choices, right? And sometimes you can confuse that for like, I don't know, culture shock, like it's not me that's wrong, it's everyone else around me, right? And like having a good community, having spaces where you practice a little bit, there's somewhat of a safety net. It helps you build manliness, helps you practice.
And you're participating in that distributed cognition. And this is also something, again, I'm not trying to pick on Neil, and I'm very excited to have the conversation. It's this notion, it's this idea of trying to solely pinpoint either the agent or the arena. And as the Vervaeke nerd, you cannot do that. There's a dynamic relating, there's a coupling. And so the fancy term I've settled on, Andrew, is toxic symbolic structures. Like, so you can say it's the culture, it's the culture that's wrong, but it's also, you are part of this culture. And so it's kind of like it's not the culture, but it also is, because you do have volition, you do have your agency, but yet you also are this entity that's you cannot escape the arena that you're coupled to, brother. You know, you have to participate in, and I think, you know, something we're doing here in this, you know, peculiar community, you know, hybrid and embodied, is we're really trying to wrestle with the fact that, yeah, there's a lot of toxicity out there, but, you know, we have our own agency, and let's embody something different. Let's you know, to be very, very kind of cheeky and kind of just lame, you know, let's see how PVK has embodied this love and care to where he can talk to anybody, and he can have a deep conversation and a loving conversation with anybody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that we're on this fitness kick, part of why I got into fitness was it was something somewhat easy that I could like actually change, you know, like there's nothing more embodied than like, you know, bodybuilding, right?
And
Yeah. Uh
I'll even push it one step further. And again, I can kind of take this from, you know, sadly, a little bit darker connotation and context. When the shit hits the fan, brother, that embodiment, that fitness matters. When you go live in a realm where force and violence are the rule, you realize very quickly, I do not need to be a weak entity. And you know, I pray that we don't crash to that regard, but it's also, but I would also say it's wise. You know, it's this old, you know, we all, many of us went through the 300, you know, I say I did about 300 hours of Jordan Peterson. And you realize it's like the real man can wield the sword but sheathes it, right? That's the really civilized man. And so it's you're honing that sword, not so you can go around, you know, chest out, you know, arms, but it's so you can feel more comfortable and more, you can open up the entirety of your human experience, because you don't have to feel as insecure, as uncomfortable around situations that are, you know, no doubt going to arise, where there is conflict, and there is perhaps you know, a being, you know, a little bit more ignorant, or a little bit more inclined to pull that trigger on physicality. And you can say, all right, brother, like, if this is where you want to go, you know, yeah, you know, let's dance, you know, kind of thing. And I hate to be that kind of thuggish and
yeah.
And I also say is, I think it's something that Joe Rogan and, you know, Chad at Alcoholic Shout Out has this notion of you know, it's not the JP sphere, it's the Joe Rogan sphere. It's kind of poking fun, but I think there's a real wisdom in that. You know, Christian Baxter has this notion of conversation craft, and I love that. It's something I've thought about for years, with this idea of don't talk religion and politics, and if you do that for about a century, your whole civilization falls. And so, what Joe Rogan stumbled onto is, no, we're gonna have open, honest dialogue. We're gonna talk about, you know, important things in a very in a somewhat humble way, and it may be counterintuitive, but the security of Joe Rogan's physicality, of his fitness, of his combat skills, that actually afford. I mean, you could call me crazy. It actually affords a lot of that. It says, you know, you can test me in a lot of ways, but, you know, at the end of the day, you're not going to sit here and scare me for lack of better framing, you know.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think a good part of it too is that when people hop on the podcast, they know exactly what Joe Rogan's about. You know, they look at him and it's like, yeah, he's a fitness dude who's also into psychedelics and who's tried out a bunch of stuff in his life. You know, that's pretty much all there is. And it's really freeing for the interviewee, because they know where he's starting from. Like, for instance, with Lex Friedman,
Yes.
it's sometimes conversations with him are kind of hard to start out with because people don't know where to start from. You know, with Joe Rogan, it's more like, okay, I kind of know how this thing is gonna go from the get go.
Even I'd actually take it a step further too. Is that, you know, nothing is a panacea, and to some regard, that has encapsulated and put a barrier and kind of put guardrails to a certain degree on the Joe Rogan experience. Ha ha ha. Because he's become so famous. You know, you're going to speak to millions of people. You know exactly what he's about. You know, if you go back into the early days, there's much more loose speaking and kind of wild roller coaster of conversations, for bad metaphor, but you're right. He is, and I think it's deserved. You know, I'm a fan. I don't listen to a ton of it. When there's big conversations, I tune in. But yeah, he earned that. He paved that way, and yeah, he's kind of outlined that space now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, Jacob, do you have any thoughts on how we should, as a community, proceed forward with our perception of JPP? Because, and perhaps it's me overthinking, what I like to say, humping a doorknob, kind of hyper focusing on. Do you have any thoughts on how we can go forward with our perception of a very foundational pillar and a very
I have been incredibly clear. My part, my channel, my Discord server is solidly on the Jordan Peterson train. If you don't like Jordan Peterson, you go away.
Mm-hmm.
Go away. I do not want you around. I am 100% in the Jordan Peterson. Like I'm here on the Jordan Peterson train. If you have problems with Jordan Peterson, I have no idea what you are doing here, and you need to go away.
Well, and in the secular framing, I totally understand and totally agree. I guess there's a little bit of nuance there on. I think there's also kind of this dual critique going on at the moment of he's also not Christian enough. And I mean, I know as a Jewish
I don't mind him not being a Christian. He's not a Trinitarian. He's not an idolater. He's less of a polytheist than the rest of the people around here. So
I stepped right into that.
Be fine with me. Now, if you are an idolater, if you are a Trinitarian, God have mercy on your soul. I am going to tolerate you, sure. But that's neither here nor there.
Stop. You love plenty of us. Yeah,
I love everything God has created for the simple reason that God has created it.
Amen. Yeah, I also find myself not very friendly to that critique as well. I think it's this very left brain kind of uber Protestant. We need you to say the words kind of thing. If you ever got into
Look, if that's your problem with Jordan Peterson not being Christian enough, he's more Christian than I am.
Amen. Touche.
So, like, if that's your problem, if this is a Christian environment, then like, what are you doing with my channel?
That's right. That's a good framing of it. That's a good framing of it, because it basically, the way I take that is, you got to get rid of Hezi, you got to get rid of Jacob, you got to get rid of Yoav, you got to get rid of all the rabbis in your corner, you got to get rid of Sam. It's a very similar, because we're all these, amateur or synthetic or pseudo philosophers to a certain degree. We dabble in these deep ideas and these deep conversations, and so you got to take what you're saying and the ideas seriously. And so
you have to get rid of Vervaeke. What, Vervaeke's Christian enough for you? Christian, like Vervaeke is more Christian than Jordan Peterson is.
That's a great point.
Like, what are you even talking about? No, these people. Look, honestly, the problem that we have is there's a certain amount of people, Luke being one of them, who like. If you heard the discussion that PDK was spotlighting today, like he directly contradicts himself, and he has zero shame in the contradictions because he's like, yeah, I mean, nothing bothers me more than to hear someone say, my God will not fit in your logical box. It's like, go away. If you have a God whose name is chaos, like you are a Satan worshiper, go away. And that's what it means if your God does not fit in the box of logic.
Yeah, and I wouldn't go as
worship the God of Satan. You worship Satan as a god.
And I wouldn't go as brash as that particular framing, but the way I would meet you is that, and I want to be gentle, is that you're still dabbling in this mammonistic realm. You're still kind of keeping your foot in this, want to be politically correct, want to be accepted by the culture, want to play nice with all these other voices and minds who I think it's just obvious. And it kind of, here's the conundrum for me is that, in this, because I think, whether it's the JP Sphere, TLC, blah, 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 I think we can all agree on the Jordan Peterson wake. I think that's a great framing. Like he put his finger into this hybrid embodied medium that is YouTube and started talking about deep things. And so to even be paying attention to this, you were obvious. It's almost a non-starter to say that you're not at least aware of the insanities of what I like to call the toxic culture. The toxic symbolic structures that our culture is pushing. Okay. And so, go ahead.
We keep on talking about World War II, as well we should, because World War II has become the definition of morality in our society.
Boomer rally.
Who are the Christians? Who is the one Christian everybody claims to actually love in the Protestant environment?
Martin Luther? Martin Luther King?
World War II.
Tillich?
Tillich is a disciple of Tillich, Bonhoeffer.
Okay, I'm not familiar.
Me neither.
You're not familiar with Bonhoeffer?
Yeah, enlighten me, or somewhat.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
I'm coming to stay on your couch. I'll plenty of time to do this stuff.
I was about to say Billy Graham.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer. There's the picture of the man.
Okay.
What'd he do?
What did he do? Let's see. February 4th, 1906 to April 9th, 1945. Was a German Lutheran pastor, theologian, and anti-Nazi dissident who was a key founding member of the Confessing Church. His writings on Christianity's role in the secular world have become widely influential. His 1937 book, The Cost of Discipleship, is described as a modern classic. Apart from his theological writings, Bonhoeffer was known for his staunch resistance to the Nazi dictatorship, including vocal opposition to Adolf Hitler's euthanasia program and genocidal persecution of the Jews. He was arrested in April 1943 by the Gestapo and imprisoned at Tegel prison for 1.5 years. Later, he was transferred to Flossenburg concentration camp. Bonhoeffer was accused of being associated with the July 20th plot to assassinate Hitler and was tried along with other accused plotters, including former members of the Abwehr, the German military intelligence office. He was hanged on 9 April 1945 during the collapse of the Nazi regime. Now, a lot of people will claim, Bonhoeffer was the Christian, right? Yeah, Bonhoeffer. I remember Tim Keller talking about him. Bonhoeffer tried to murder Hitler. So, like, all you pacifists, all you bullshit Christians, like, Bonhoeffer was an actual man who was a real Christian, and he redeemed Protestant Christianity to the degree that it's redeemable during World War II. And so if you don't like Bonhoeffer, F off. Absolutely F off. If Bonhoeffer is not a hero to you, F off. If you can't unequivocally endorse one of the few Christians who stood up against the Nazis, despite our entire morality supposedly being anti-Nazi, then who do you think you are? And Jordan Peterson is standing like Bonhoeffer. We actually have euthanasia going on right now, right? In Canada, they're murdering people, right? With medically assisted, what do they call
Yeah, medically assisted death or something.
medical assistance in dying, right? Like, what the things that are going on with trans children, like, come on. If you wake up and have a Christian morality which stands against the party of Satan, which is the Democratic Party, I have no time for you.
Well, it's the worldview.
Zero time for you.
It's the worldview of death, right? It's. I love this quote. Is all cultures have warred for death. Few cultures have cherished life. And look, I'm not going to go as far as me and Luke Thompson have a very, very similar worldview. But on certain and I hate to say it like this, certain kind of political dynamics, the difference of our worldview is definitely highlighted. And he said it, and I don't want to pick on Luke, blah blah, but he said it in a stream recently. Is he got into this kind of Christian nonviolence, right? This Christian pacifism, and actually he even said the words, which I'm not very biblically literate. I've come back to this path just a few years recently, but it's I believe St. Augustine and I believe St. Thomas Aquinas also landed, and the Jewish man Maimonides also landed on the theory of just war, and in the same breath, literally in the same sentence, and so, like I said, I don't want to pick on him because there is this kind of this tension that man exists in, but there's also philosophical rigor and philosophical sophistication, and so this idea that, like, you can't stand up or you can't say that this is an existential enemy, this friend that has vehemently differing views from me and wants me eradicated. No, I should be able to push back against that, or I should be able to have a worldview that says, hey, if you come for all that I know and love, I will stand up and fight. Like that. That's the as what I know of is the theory of just war. Is I mean, you perhaps have more insight on that.
I mean, just war, yes. I mean, the idea of pacifism is just morally bankrupt. I call the unholy trinity of evil pacifism, anarchy, and universalism. Like, if you do not believe in fighting against evil, you are a horrible human being. You are a failure to be a human being.
And here's where I'll go. I'll just put the cards on the table for my very, very.
Cal says pacifism is for those who are afraid to commit. It's cowardice. That's what it is.
And let me tell you what.
I want to highlight this. Planned Parenthood of Great Rivers is giving free vasectomies and abortions at the Democratic National Convention. Free vasectomies and abortions at the Democratic National Convention. Like, what do you need to be more clear about this?
I have something to say.
It's a culture of death.
It
Go ahead,
is.
Trey. Go ahead,
I
Trey.
have something to say.
Yes, Trey.
Good night.
Good night, Trey.
There you
Well-
go.
And see, I think there's
Cal, is that you? Like, I don't know Cal's last name.
if that's the Cal that I think of, he's a bona fide intellect. I mean, the amount
Oh
of
yeah, I love Cal.
the amount of
If,
intellectual prowess in this place,
if
and
it
just
can't be that Cal, what's Cal's last name? Cal's last name is Rivet.
oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Perhaps
that's-
it's not.
You must be a different Cal. Bonhoeffer was not a heretic. All of
Well-
this, yeah.
I just want to kind of outline my very immature theology is that you also it's the totality of the story, right? You cannot just pick out. I'm not an uber Protestant. I don't just pick out a line and obsess over it. I don't pick out a date or an event and obsess over it. And it's this notion of like Christians were made to be fed to the lions, but that's also the Christians of 200 AD, 300 AD. It's our ancestors, our heritage dealt with that so we could learn from that. Not so we could say, all right, now I'm ready to be fed to a lion. It's like, no, there are no being fed to a lion in my lifetime. And the way I'm cognizing it is to learn from the totality of the message.
There's a genocide of Christians going on right now in Africa.
I know.
And like my biggest question with Christian Baxter's question, like when he was talking to that Chinese Christian, like it's like, how is this guy a like openly talking about Christianity in China without the Chinese government like trying to kill him?
It's a great point. And I'm not going to sit here and interrogate him too much, but to be fair, he did comment on the fact that he started an estuary and it completely collapsed for some of the things you're pointing to is that people were like, I'm not going to sit here and speak about this. I'm gonna I'll take this to my trusted.
I didn't hear the entire discussion, but this guy Bob, his name is,
Which is an interesting name.
Well, I mean, I don't blame him for not using his Chinese name.
Touche.
But he's living in China right now.
From what I understand, if I understand fully, don't hold me to. I thought he was also a bit able to travel pretty well too. I think he's come to the States for some time. But from what I understand is that he was engaging in these conversations and trying to participate in this theological worldview, and he found out very quickly that the culture was not there, that people were quick to abandon it to betray the bond and say, hey, I like that we're having these open conversations. I'm gonna go take it to these people that I know aren't gonna tell the CCP on me, and we'll have our own little conversation. And his estuary kind of fell apart. But yeah, I totally get your point. Is that it's a tough spot to be in if he is a good faith actor, and I don't want to sit here and color.
He, from everything, he seemed like a really nice guy.
Yep.
But again, like he has a Twitter profile, and I'm just wondering how you can be an open Christian without like being murdered and live in mainland China.
Yeah. Well, and I would say I'd go a little bit further. Say openly, like on the internet. I'm sure there's some Christian communities that are so robust. Like, are they going to sit there and decimate 100? Which I wouldn't put it past the Chinese regime, but yeah, you'd also, I guess, this is where I'm so immature in my theology and in my Christian knowledge, but I also believe that there are some robust communities that are that are propagating up and thriving in kind of odd areas of the world. I mean, Ethiopia is one that I really hearken on and kind of beat the drum on. I have this saying, if it all burns in the West, the Christians in Ethiopia will thrive. It's not totally analogous, but yeah, I definitely get your point, is that there's many Christian communities that are being vehemently persecuted, and you won't hear a lick of it in our algorithmized and the appropriate medias that are of our day. It's totally that they won't tell you anything about Donald Trump. They're definitely not going to tell you about any international Christian communities.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to okay, this article is from 2017 on the Gospel Coalition, right? So I have a friend who travels to China several times a year for ministry. His plans are top secret. Even those traveling with him aren't informed of trip details. And other parts of the itinerary are only unfurled on a need-to-know basis. The whole team wears sweatshirts or jackets with hoods, shrouding their identity as soon as they hit the ground. A blacked-out van takes them to an undisclosed location along a circuitous route with multiple switchbacks along the way. Once at their training facility, they don't see the light of day until they're on their way back to the airport. I, on the other hand, openly and publicly pastor a church in China. When people ask me, what do I do for a living, even publicly in a crowd of people, I say, I am a pastor of a church. You should come visit sometime. Perhaps you're more familiar with the former description of ministry in China, perhaps the latter, perhaps both. Regardless, seemingly contradictory reports on ministry in the Middle Kingdom can lead to no little confusion. So what is ministry in China really like? Here's a primer to help orient you to the landscape. Preliminary disclaimer. First, a disclaimer. I can't tell you what anything in China is really like. That is, unless we're comfortable with saying it's like a bunch of contradictory things all at the same time. A faithful and honest description of Chinese Christianity will be nuanced and somewhat paradoxical, not definitive and one-sided. Joan Pittman wrote an extremely helpful article that should be required reading for anyone visiting or discussing China. In some places and at some times, China is one thing, while at other places and times it's the opposite. When asked if China is like this or that, so the answer is almost always yes. In fact, it's easy to spot a China rookie. They're the ones who confidently begin, the church across China looks like, all Chinese Christians believe, ministry in China is always, or the government's attitude towards Chinese Christians is. So the goal of understanding what China is really like must be tempered, or at least approached in a way that allows for ambiguity and recognizes the enigma of the subject. Toward that goal and in that spirit, here are 5 things helpful to understand about the church landscape in China. 1, understand the legality of Christianity in China. Christianity in China is not illegal. The official stance of the Communist Party is atheistic, but that's not forced on all Chinese citizens or expatriates. Yeah, you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say is that's very much in line with an authoritarian, communistic, managerial regime, right? Is they want that ambiguity. They thrive on that.
Right.
They thrive on that non-certitude.
Right.
Because then they can flip the switch whenever they want. That's kind of how I was just
saying. Yeah, that is true. Protestant Christianity is one of 5 approved religions alongside Buddhism, Taoism, Islam, and modified Catholicism. I say modified since the Chinese Catholic Church is forced to operate independent of Rome. I was once castigated at a church in the States after preaching a sermon in which I used the phrase closed country in reference to China. A surely well-meaning sister reproved me, China is not a closed country. We went there to adopt our daughter and saw several churches in plain sight. True, but the legality of Christianity is only one of several things we must understand. 2, understand that the 3 self-patriotic movement. Christianity has been in China for a long, long time. Its public visibility, though, has come and gone. Christian missions began with Matteo Ricci in 1582, but Christianity was outlawed and labeled an evil cult in 1724. Treaties in 1860 re-allowed missions, only to have all missionaries expelled by the Communist Party in 1953, and all religious groups banned by Chairman Mao in 1966. By 1979, approved religions were re-allowed, governed by the Three Self-Patriotic Movement and the government-run China Christian Council. Breaking down the TSPM moniker is helpful. First, it's a movement, but it's not just a movement, it's the movement, since China is, by and large, afraid of things like networks, coalitions, synods, presbyteries, and denominations. China doesn't like large organized groups that can easily stir the masses. So there's one movement to rule all movements, the TSPM, ruled by the Chinese Communist Party. Second, it's a patriotic movement. It's hardly accidental that the movement governing Protestant Christians' affairs has no religious lingo in its title. Allegiances lie first and foremost with the People's Republic. Third, it's the Three Self-Patriotic Movement. The three selves are these: self-governed, self-funded, and self-propagated, i.e. indigenous, not foreign mission activities. C, no movements, no denominations. Every church is to exist under the leadership of the municipal and provincial council, but which without outside influence and without forming networks, presbyteries, and other such groups. Yet if the government allows for legal Christianity, even visible public meet in a brick and mortar church building Christianity, what about all the stories of persecution and underground Christianity in house churches? 3, understand the existence of the house church movement. Yes, Christianity in China is legal, and yes, churches can meet publicly under the TSPM banner, but this comes from with consequences. The TSPM reserves the right to censor and control their churches to the extent they deem necessary and appropriate. Granted, things used to be much worse than they are in 2017. I don't know what they're like in 2024. In days past, certain biblical books were forbidden as texts of exposition, mainly end times ones like Daniel and Revelation. Evangelism wasn't allowed. The gospel couldn't be boldly proclaimed, and so on. Consequently, many Christians have decided to meet outside the TSPM structure. These are the so-called underground churches or house churches. They meet in storefronts, off-hour bars and restaurants, or rented homes and apartments. All these churches are considered illegal by the Chinese government and are therefore the object of persecution if they're located and fail to comply. The local officials will sometimes know about these groups and turn a blind eye, but since they're illegal, there's no ultimate peace of mind. They can be harassed if pressures applied to those keeping an eye on them. The government has gradually loosened restrictions, though again, this depends on time and place. Today, it's not altogether uncommon to attend a TSPM church and hear the gospel preached or hear an exhortation to share your faith with others. The Chinese government has even extended an invitation for house churches to come forth and be registered. The authorities have promised safe harbor in your current underground meeting space. They just want to know who and where you are. Yeah. So, with such evidences of relaxation, why are some Christians still underground? 4, understand the continuance of the house church movement. First and foremost, house church leaders aren't underground because of the extent of government meddling, but because of the mere fact of it. By analogy, consider the Boston Tea Party of the American Revolution. Contrary to popular belief, this protest had little to do with the rising taxation in the American colonies. The Tea Act of 1773 actually reduced the tax burden on Americans. The colonists took issue with Britain's ability to get involved at all, whether or not the effects were favorable. This is the house church stance. Extend all the apparent olive branches you want, but Jesus Christ is still the head of the church, not the TSPM and not the CCC. Second, further clouding the issue is a historically rooted distrust of government attempts to help Christians. The invitations to voluntarily register churches have been met with skepticism by anyone with a history book. And even if motives are currently pure, the Chinese government has been known to change its mind. What if the winds of favor shift tomorrow? Finally, there's still undesirable restrictions registered churches have learned to tolerate, but policies in which many house churches can't get along. Even at registered churches, for example, all events must occur during designated times at the designated facility. Small groups, home groups, training events, and so on must all take place at the church building where the things can be monitored. Some pastors are required to submit sermons to a government official ahead of time to review and approval. 5. Understand international churches. A final question might be helpful for Christians in the West. If the TSPM and the CCC govern Chinese religious affairs, what about all the foreigners in China? Can they go to a Chinese church? Does the government also govern international churches? And if so, what does that look like? Some foreigners whose language ability is up to snuff attend Chinese churches. Others huddle together in living rooms and listen to audio sermons from abroad. Still others band together in visible, recognizable international churches. This latter category exists in larger cities with significant international populations. Such international churches are typically asked to check passports at the door to ensure the congregation is indeed international and not local. Again, there are always exceptions, but most registered international churches meet at a three-self building when the Chinese congregation isn't using the facility. A common scenario is for the Chinese church to use the building in the morning and the foreigners to roll in around 4 p.m. For their service. But even then, it's not as if the international church is recognized that in the same way the Chinese congregation is. Maybe recognized is a better word for international churches than registered. These congregations rarely use church in their name, opting to call themselves a fellowship instead. One pastor described it to me by saying, it's as if the government views the international gathering like a Sunday school of the local TSPM church. The church meets there in the morning, but they allow some foreigners to come in the afternoon, all under the same umbrella of that one sanctioned TSPM church. Requests from the foreigners to move to a bigger space, change locations, add a second service, or host an outside event are met with disdain. For these and other reasons, the international church picture resembles that of the Chinese church. Some registered churches, many more underground churches, and some that are hybrid, unregistered but meeting publicly. One final word. Many questions remain, of course. These 5 points are by no means exhaustive. I mean, I haven't heard the full discussion, but like I am wondering from the descriptions that I have seen how this guy could be discussing Christianity and having an estuary meeting in China.
And to be fair, I don't think what we read entirely contradicts. If I understand his situation, entirely contradicts from what I just gathered. From the small article we read, it's an authoritarian regime that is like, they're when there was a wording there, when the time and place is proper. So they'll let you have your small communities. They'll let you get by. But if you get large enough and powerful enough to start trouble, well, that's when the hammer comes down, right? It's kind of this playing with or allowing the ambiguity of the plebs to an extent, and I mean for what the West is devolving in. I mean, i.e., look at the UK right now. Look at many regards of the U.S. in certain vectors. It makes total sense to me, and it's not quite. It doesn't quite refute what Bob was articulating, but it still shows that.
I haven't heard what Bob was articulating. I just don't understand how I can listen to somebody who's living in China speak in English to somebody in the United States about being a Christian and have any trust that person can speak truthfully about their situation.
Well, and I guess I would just offer that it's, there's a relative nature to this, right? What he may think he's participating in, and what he is cognizing as a Christian community. I mean, CB mentioned it in the conversation. He's like, yeah, in Arkansas, there's 100 churches in his small town, and I think there's three. I think he said there's three communities in his town, in his city of, I think 9 million was it? Don't quote me, but something to that regard. And so again, some of this lands for, if you have any insights into the totalitarian nature of political regimes, China's very long game kind of oriented. It's almost that they don't even necessarily want a war. They just want to be very protected against war, and they'll put their chips on. We've been here thousands of years, and let the West crumble as they're doing. Very much on their own means. Now we're living through it, and so I guess what I'm trying to say is that in that article, I still can understand, or I still can kind of balance and cognize that they'll give you the nod, they'll give you the placation of, sure, go have your little house churches, go have your little fellowships, get to a community with real political influence.
But Matthew, you're not understanding what I'm saying. I'm not saying so much that what he's describing is implausible. I am saying that the medium through which this is being communicated is strange, because here he is talking on YouTube from China. Like, I don't understand how there isn't, like...
Well, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, I see what you're saying, because that in itself would almost... because of the medium is kind of what you're highlighting, is that almost refutes and debunks kind of their model of allowing the petty Christian communities going. Is as soon as you're talking to Christians in America, it's like that's a little bit more of a curveball.
Yeah,
so I think
like you saw in that thing, like you have to check passports to make sure that local Chinese are not coming to the Western stuff. Like, communicating and being in communication, like developing friendships with people outside of China, like that's a whole other thing.
Well, and I hate to be this guy, and I'm just throwing this out here.
Yeah.
We're the community we're playing in. We have to understand in a kind of a Machiavellian way that there's gonna be ulterior motives and I'm not going to say nefarious, but oddball actors that are inserted. I mean, it's just a reality, and I hate to put on that hat, that whatever tinfoil, blah blah blah. And I'm not saying, God bless. I love that conversation. It's a great conversation, but the idea that, like you said, that this guy's just allowed to sit here and go out and commune and freely communicate with these overtly ecumenical and westernized theologically oriented peoples and community. Yeah, that one is a little bit harder to swallow.
Yeah, I didn't listen to the discussion. I'm going to probably if I get the time, but like, yeah, I wonder about his safety. Like,
yeah, that's a better framing. I like that framing better than the nefarious connotations I was presuming.
Yeah, well, I don't know this guy, but like, if I did know if he's a friend of mine, my first concern for him would be like, dude, are you going to be okay after this discussion? If he came on my channel, if somebody who's living in China, like, I have members of my my community who are living in Muslim countries, right? And like we keep and have families in Muslim countries, and we are very, very careful about what is discussed about who they are, what their identity is. Like doxing them could be a death sentence. Like especially like we now have Muslim Noahides, right? That's like death sentence, right? Like if the local authorities find out, these people will be put to death.
Man, if there's one thing you could say about that, and again, all the caveats. I'm very new into this intentional Abrahamic faith, but man, is that a goober of that particular strand? They are very stringent. They are very they don't want a lot of freedom and innovation and openness. For lack of a better word.
I mean, what?
I'm talking to a Jew. I know.
No, it's not even Jew. I mean, here.
It breaks my heart. I mean, I'll just be honest.
Picture of Michael Servetus. Like
that's your guy. I've heard you bang on that one. I'm very ignorant.
Michael Servetus?
Yeah. You want to give me a little bit?
John Calvin murdered him.
Okay.
John Calvin murdered him, and like my whole thing is like you call yourself a Calvinist, like John Calvin was a murderer. Like between John Calvin and Michael Servetus, like read up on the life of Michael Servetus, how he lived, how he died. Read up on the life of John Calvin, how he lived, how he died, and then decide for yourself who's the better Christian. And if you think that Michael Servetus was a worse Christian than John Calvin, you're an asshole.
Yeah, and I mean, my disposition is to try and balance, and it was a different time, and
no, see, that's absolute bullshit. Like that's what Calvinists say all the time. It's like,
I'm no Calvinist. I'm a Catholic.
See, this is the thing.
We had an Inquisition.
No. Like, what Jesus was put to death, right? And when Pilate says to the Sanhedrin, "Here, you put him to death," the Sanhedrin says, "It is against our laws to put any man to death," right? So if one people should realize that you shouldn't put people to death for their religious beliefs, it should be Christians.
Yeah, I see your framing.
So, like, don't tell me that 500 years ago, John Calvin read his Book of Acts and read his history of the Christian church and didn't realize that putting people to death for not believing what you believe is evil.
That's so interesting, the nuance of your insight into that, because, and this is my thing, it's one of my favorite things as a autodidact, craftsman, is when me and the likes of John Vervaeke land on something similarly with, non-participatory convergence, is he has this notion of deep priors, and I have this idea that I've had for profound implicits, because the framing I've been articulated, or has been articulated to me, is that it doesn't, because I like what you're highlighting, I like what you're focusing on there, and it hits and it lands, but the way that it has been articulated to me is that the Jews of that time were trying to manipulate the system to say, hey, we can't put this guy to death, but we want him to death. And maybe it's a both and perhaps it's not even
whatever. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah, that doesn't refute your point.
Where was it? Calvin was preordained to murder him. It wasn't his fault. It was his fault, and it's proof that if Calvin was correct in perseverance of the saints and the elect and limited atonement, then Calvin is burning in hell. According to his own theology, we should recognize that Calvin was not part of the elect. He was not a saint. He went to hell. So, okay. It's getting late, and
Yep.
this is the perfect time for me to play this clip. So
Okay.
I'm gonna end with this clip.
Right,
I'm going to use host's prerogative to put the Reverend Parcells to bed because he does need to get up in the morning.
Sorry,
You are
Reverend. Thank
correct.
you.
But before he goes, I have a question. Let's say, God forbid, that I were to burn somebody at the stake for not being a Trinitarian. And I did not repent of that. Is that a salvation issue?
Sometimes Jacob takes
There's a
that devil's
proverb.
advocate thing too
Isn't there
far.
a proverb that says something like "Don't answer a fool according to his folly."
But there's a proverb that says, answer a fool according to his folly.
There is.
Exactly right. And I'm going to leave it to you guys to determine, which of those was applicable in this situation as I go. So, but anyhow, good.
Thank
It was
you,
good
Reverend.
to
Thank
chat
you.
with you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
The